Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rights Tech Summit. I'm Paul Sweeting. I'm the co-chair of the summit and co-founder of the Rights Tech Project. Thank you all for being here today. One of our main focuses and interests here at Rights Tech is how companies can use technology and technological tools to address some of the challenges that technology has presented to rights owners and to creators, as well as to take advantage of the opportunities that new platforms provide for rights owners and creators. And we have a special presentation for you today from our good friends at Orfium on how media companies and others can use technology and technology tools to unlock the full value of the content that they own and that they create. And for that presentation, we have Drew Delis, who is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Orfium, and his Director of Product, Michael Pitoglou. And they are joining us today all the way from Athens, Greece, as we continue our globe-trotting here at the Rights Tech Summit. Last panel, we had folks from Amsterdam and Paris, France. And so today we're moving over to Athens, Greece. So I would greet you in Greek, but I don't speak a word of it. Thank you both for joining us. I just, before we get started, just a reminder to folks out there, please introduce yourselves in the chat. You can open the chat window by clicking the icon at the bottom of your screen. Drop in your LinkedIn. We love to see people connecting with each other. Say hello. Let us know who you are, what you do. If you have questions for Michael or Drew, please put them in the Q&A box, which you can open by clicking the icon at the bottom of the screen, just to the left of the chat button. And that will open up that window, and you can pose questions, and we will try to get to as many as we can at the end of this session. With that, let me turn it over to Drew and Michael, and take it away, guys. And I'll be back in a little bit to help with the questions, and might even have a few of my own. So I'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Again, I'm Drew Delis, co-founder and CEO of Orfium.
And I'm Michael Pitoglou, Director of Product for Orfium.
Today, we wanted to discuss the kind of history of digital licensing, the current landscape, some of the current obstacles and ways to overcome it. We've got a kind of brief presentation to walk through that, and then we'd like to open it up for some Q&A. So I'm just going to present.
But before we jumping directly to the topic of the discussion, we should discuss a little bit of who we are, what is Orfium doing. And Orfium is a technology company. We have built a deep understanding of the music industry over the last years, and we try to build software and products that enhance the value of intellectual property. We are an independent organization that loves technology and data, and we understand very well copyrights and the problems revolving around them. And more specifically, what we do, we have specialized in UGC monetization with services and products ranging from catalog management up to claiming and other services, but we also have built solutions about centralizing the rights management, onboarding, reconciliation, and conflict identification. And besides that, we can handle reports from music users reports, either from DSPs or music users, and we can also create the royalty statements, the necessary reports for royalty distribution. Last but not least, we have a very strong and very efficient metadata matching algorithm that enables us to connect the music usage and represent repertoire together, as well as perform other actions among a specific catalog, which covers pretty much all the needs across the media supply chain and the metadata chain in the music industry. And today we're going to discuss about the history, the current landscape, and the challenges of digital licensing. So, Drew?
Yep. So first, just kind of wanted to break down the history and kind of the overarching theme that that we come across quite often is that there's a disconnect between how music and content is consumed and how it's licensed, and how consumption happens, on a global basis, whereas the licensing is much more fractured and split. And from a history standpoint, when digital first became a thing, this was mostly done on a single market basis. So, every collecting society or rights owner was licensing on the publishing side specifically, on a territory by territory basis. It was much simpler to understand who controlled what and which territories, because it was pretty much one party per territory. But it was difficult for licensees because you had to do significantly more deals. You're dealing with more parties, and it's actually currently how video on demand platforms like Netflix or Disney Plus are still licensed on a territory by territory basis. Over time, this has transitioned to a multi-territory licensing scheme where you have one party, whether it's a CMO, a licensing hub, or a special purpose vehicle, engaging in licenses with DSPs across many territories, and that list is growing. Some of the pros there are definitely economies of scale. You're not having to do dozens of deals. It can be done on a far fewer deal basis. You have a faster royalty cycle because less parties. It tends to be faster, and you have more rights holder control over how your rights are licensed. The downside is, or I guess the obstacles that arise with this, is the business logic becomes significantly more complicated in terms of which repertoire you can direct license over multi-territories, even on a territory by territory basis. Managing agreements, managing writer affiliations. There's been an increase in conflict as a result, because a lot of parties think they might have the rights or have technical difficulties carving out certain repertoire that's being direct licensed by others. And then probably most significantly, the amount of data that has to be processed is grown exponentially. You're licensing on a DSP, on a product tier, on a territory and rights type basis. So the amount of data that is required to process in a timely way is pretty significant.
And the territorial scope keeps increasing over time, right, which makes it even more difficult. And indeed, this is a very interesting challenge within the music industry. Probably digital licensing is the most interesting case, yet at the same time, it is the most complicated one. And that was our starting point, trying to understand how this works, the problems for digital licensing. And this, after our initial analysis, we managed to create 4 different segments in order to better understand and create solutions for these challenges. That being the 4 main pillars of the solution that we have right now, which is a solution for rights management, onboarding and reconciliation, licensing solution, music usage centralization and matching with represented repertoire, and of course, the royalty allocation and distribution back to the rights holders. And this is just a visual representation to make more clear how we understand this challenge as a system with a specific input and a specific output. Basically, the 3 first pillars of our solution take care of the repertoire, onboarding and reconciliation, handling and deduplicating the usage and matching it with repertoire, and also taking care of every aspect of the royalty life cycle, receiving money, sending money, in order to properly allocate and distribute royalties back to the parties and the rights holders. So the system, while it has three main points of input, the output overall is properly allocated and distributed royalties to the proper rights holders. And we're going to deep dive a little bit in our solution, starting from the first pillar of the suite that we have built, where we cover all the needs about onboarding, either if it happens from the writers or the creators themselves through our portal application, or through CWR and other possibly CSV files, which end up into the main database that we call Music Rights Cloud. We also handle the media files through the media library, and also we try to reconcile and identify conflicts in this solution. We use machine learning technologies for that, and multiple other services that revolve around this core of our products in order to efficiently cover the needs on rights management. And next, we're going to see how music usage pillar of our product works. We have four main applications: one for centralizing the music usage and duplicating that, one for matching it against the represented repertoire using algorithms that efficiently minimize the workload of operational people, handling AV works and other products in general, and also a monitoring app that allows us to locate music when and if this is played to specific broadcaster or other signals of music. And next, possibly one of the most important, is the allocation application that allocates royalties on the work level using specific rules according to the duration, the number of plays, or possibly other parameters. And we can also allocate via proxies and via older distribution if that's needed for a specific case. We have, of course, this adjustable point system that makes this solution currency agnostic. You don't have to run this every time for other currencies. You can do that once and then distribute royalties in the next step we're going to see using this allocation system. So for the last part of our solution, we have the distribution app, the royalty pools, and the earnings application. In distribution, we take care of the previously allocated royalties on a work level, and we make sure they are distributed down to the parties according to the represented to the percentage that they collect in a specific territory. Royalty pools is a business intelligence tool mostly that allows users, internal users, to see how its distribution was affected possibly by conflicts or deficiencies or other problems. And earnings is the endpoint where writers or other users access a detailed view of earnings for a specific distribution period, for a specific DSP, and even a specific product. And we'll also take care of other standard industry standard formats like CCID and CRD in order to efficiently cover the needs in the digital licensing part of the music industry. Drew, I'm not sure if you want to add anything.
The main just point to add of this is that, although there are a lot of additional obstacles, with the digital licensing in the multi-territory space, it definitely seems to be the preferred route for both licensors and licensees. I think there are challenges, but they are able to be overcome. And one thing when we were kind of setting out to solve these problems, really kind of first learning from our core clients, we realized that there is no standardization. Every party in the supply chain is using different systems. So we wanted to develop a solution, a product suite that was completely modular. So whether you needed the full end-to-end suite, kind of all four pillars, or you only needed a subset of that, being able to accommodate that and do deep integrations.
We have some technical issues.
The power just went out.
Yeah,
sorry. All right. Do you guys have any questions for us? Besides about the power.
Well, I had a few. So that was primarily music focused discussion, and of course the rights and payment management is probably more complicated in music than elsewhere. But is that your focus is broader than music? You make this service available to, or software available to other types of media companies, correct? And is
Yes.
where is most of your growth coming from? Is it on the music side still, or is it elsewhere?
So the products are available for non-music rights owners like film and TV, for example. From a operational standpoint, those rights tend to be much simpler from the way that the licensing is done, how rights are bifurcated across different rights types, and then there's split ownership. So it's kind of much more granular, can be a bigger issue. From a growth perspective, we see pretty strong growth coming from the music sector because this part of the music industry is growing significantly, but also from non-music. And I think kind of a general trend that we're seeing across the board is that, in the past, the silo between film and TV and music and gaming and other content types were much more rigid. And now we see those lines becoming much more blurred. For example, this week we have one of our music rights holder clients has an artist who's performing an in-game concert inside a video game. So inside Roblox, they're doing a concert. So we're helping facilitate that transaction by, there's the power. Sorry. We're helping with them with the rights transmission and the actually not only the consumption of it on the platform, on that specific gaming platform, but actually how it propagates across other platforms on the internet. So I think that's a good example of how even different content verticals, those lines are being blurred, and even cross-platform being blurred.
Yeah, that actually came up a bit in an earlier panel where Brett Hyman from AEG Presents was talking about their partnership with Twitch and using the Twitch platform to live stream music concerts. But there's also been a lot of activity, since COVID, really, of embedding live music into games
Exactly.
through Roblox and Fortnite and a few others. So that and I think you're right there. The silos are breaking down. That's sort of the one of the premises here also of RightsTech is that there are increasing similarities and between the different silos in terms of, at least at an operational level and at a data management and rights management level, because it is getting a lot more squishy, I guess, between.
And it's a great opportunity. I think there's a lot of very positive things, and then there's some obstacles that arise as a result of that. And what we kind of do as that's where we that's our purpose, is to solve these type of problems that really kind of sit in between these technology and rights issues.
Can you talk about who at all some of your clients are without?
Yeah, I mean, it's from the music side, it's most of the major music publishers and major record labels. We work for collecting societies, both in the US and domestically, starting to get more into the film and TV space, just entered into an agreement with NBC Universal to help them with some products, some new analytic tools that we built for them. So more on tracking usage across different platforms on their content as well. So, we started out really being kind of coming at it from the music side, and that's kind of led us to transition into film and TV as well.
And the film and TV world, particularly with direct-to-consumer streaming, has become, as you were referencing earlier, much more of a multi-territorial business, in that you really need to think about rights and royalty collections and so forth on a multi-territorial basis, because these platforms are increasingly global in scope.
Yes, and what's interesting about like a VOD platform is that although I think the AV content, the film and TV stuff is being done on a multi-territory basis, like the music that's used within those programs is actually still being licensed on a per territory basis. And this kind of goes back to the earlier comment where, you know, consumption is global. There's no kind of borders of the consumption, but from the licensing and the, you know, the flow of rights and revenue, it is very much fractured still.
Yeah, that's a real problem with the music rights not necessarily syncing up entirely with the video rights, and video platforms often, or you know, the video rights owners, you know, often have to substitute music or strip music out of certain productions because at least in certain territories, because they haven't cleared the music for those territories. So
yeah, there's a few questions. I don't know. Should we respond to those? Okay.
There are a couple of questions. What are the general costs and size of the catalog parameters?
So we offer a variety of products, and you basically can break those our offerings into 4 kind of buckets. So it's software solutions, you know, licensing software, data solutions, so you know, licensing data or you know, manipulating data based on, you know, for various reasons, you know, processing data, licensing solutions, so actually being a licensing vehicle in certain situations on behalf of rights holders. And then lastly is kind of like, we call it like tailored rights management. So you know, a client comes to us with a specific problem, we can, you know, develop a solution for them, and then, you know, that's great because we get to really learn about what their core issues are, and then also if that client has that problem, most likely other, you know, similar situated clients of, you know, rights types will have something similar, so we can, you know, it's a great opportunity to really learn. So really the commercial models vary depending on, you know, which one of the solution, which kind of bucket it falls into, and then even, you know, the specific product itself. You know, a lot of our stuff is done on a revenue share basis. Some stuff is done on a you know, pure, you know, monthly fee basis. Other things are done on a kind of metered use instance, or some kind of hybrid between the two. So from a software perspective, when we license software out for customers to use, it's done mostly on a SaaS model, which is like a fee plus a metered use that's kind of tethered to data processing.
And does the client retain the ownership of the data that flows through your?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, data governance is a super important issue for us. I mean, you know, you know, all of that is, you know, siloed, and we kind of we call it like metadata. So actually tracking which data is, you know, can be combined and not across clients is a super, you know, critical component for what we're doing.
We're also taking very seriously the security for our clients and their data, because we understand that intellectual property is very important and should not be outside of our organization for any reason. So we take care of that, and we are very careful with how we handle all the incoming data from submitters and partners.
What about the sports arena? Is that an area that you're looking at in terms of, because all of this, the sports leagues are, you know, getting into all kinds of different slicing and dicing of their content and distribution of their content, and that's got to be getting an increasingly complex process.
Exactly, and I mean, these sports leagues and teams, they're content owners, so it's really kind of through that, you know, through that capacity that there's an opportunity to work with them. I think we're seeing that grow pretty significantly away from just linear TV. You know, every team, every, you know, league, they have big presence on all the, you know, major platforms, you know, like YouTube or Facebook, and they, you know, want to track that. They want to understand, you know, what's the relationship between how something is consumed digitally and versus how something performs linearly. And so yes, it's an area that we are starting to get more interest in, and actually kind of also, I would say we're a little bit less further along in the sports arena, but I think it's definitely, again, kind of blurring those, you know, part of that concept where those lines are blurring between the different rights types and buckets.
Are there others out there that are doing something like what you're doing in a similarly comprehensive way, or do, do you find you have pretty green fields to run into?
We definitely, I mean, there's definitely a lot of other companies that operate in in some area of what we do. I don't think there's a direct competitor that's kind of doing everything that we're doing, and I think that's one of our competitive advantages, that we have a very robust engineering team here in Athens. It's where our kind of R&D hub is based. We've got 150 employees that are based here, about 80 in the US total. So it's kind of that combination of having deep domain experience with rights and flow, and then being able to efficiently and effectively develop technology to serve these clients. I think it positions us well for solving these types of problems in the future.
And many times there's a very thin line between what you call a competitor and what is a potential partner for you. So there might be many companies that do similar things to us, but there might be also a lot of overlapping and matching with what we do. So
exactly,
we could be
partners.
And
there's companies that do broadcast monitoring that our systems can integrate with theirs via APIs, because a lot of the clients that we're selling to use these companies. So we wanted to not be a barrier and essentially have a rigid structure requiring them to take all of what we're doing, but have the ability to pick and choose.
A couple other questions out here. Stephen Korn, can you speak to your competitive advantages with respect to YouTube monetization?
Yeah, I would say YouTube is, I feel very confident saying that we understand how YouTube rights flows on the music side specifically better than anyone. This is really where we actually cut our teeth, and we learned a lot about licensing, music consumption. This is really our strength. It's an area that we have very deep coverage across the entire music sector from a client base. So it's very much one of our definite strengths. And a lot of technology that we use now, we actually first started by deploying that across YouTube, and then kind of abstracting that into other places.
Steve had a follow-up, it looks like. You mentioned that you charge like a SaaS model, but on your website, it says joining Orfium is free. You only make money when your content generates revenue through one of our services. We'll never charge you upfront. Is this for non-enterprise clients?
Yeah, I mean, that specifically is for like our YouTube monetization services that we offer, where it's done purely on a rev share basis. And that, that kind of falls into the rev share commercial model. The software stuff, we don't really advertise it on our site. Actually, we have a new site going live in like a day or two. So
it's more of a B2B business relationship. So we directly communicate with partners and potential customers as well.
Oslin Lewis asks a very interesting question. Something I suspect a lot of video rights owners would like to know. If I sell my content, say to Netflix, can I track it for analytics after Netflix streams it, or as Netflix streams it? Netflix, of course, is sort of famously parsimonious with data on usage. Is your platform capable of extracting analytics Netflix might not share?
I mean, Netflix is a closed platform, so unless you're doing something that's not permitted by their terms of service, you can't access that data unless you're working with them directly. But I know that's they're very, and really I think kind of a lot of the VOD platforms are very hesitant to over divulge in a lot of consumption data.
It's not in their interest to divulge. It's their they'd be giving away their secrets to the other side of the negotiating table. So
yeah, exactly.
kind of reluctant to do that. By the way, your colleague Rob Fisher, for folks who want to know more about or talk more about YouTube and Content ID, he's put his LinkedIn link in there that is offering to follow up with anybody who wants to talk Content ID. Which brings up another question, with the what's happening in Europe, particularly the European Copyright Directive and Article 17, and and extending in effect the Netflix, YouTube's Content ID having to be replicated essentially on other platforms in order to identify and attribute any copyrighted content on those UGC platforms. Is that, that's going to create another tremendous data management problem, I think, for a lot of folks in the ecosystem. Rights owners are going to be getting data now from that they weren't necessarily getting from, as well as potentially revenue from a large number of platforms that they hadn't before. Is that good or bad for you, for Orfium?
I think it's good. I think it, more access to these tools for more rights holders. Traditionally, you have to have been a larger rights holder to, kind of get these direct deals. But I think it's actually a very good thing to be able to open these up. YouTube has done a good job in terms of creating a commercial model that allows for content to, live on its platform, and kind of abstract the monetization rights from the uploader and actually assign it to the rights holder. So I think that's actually a positive.
Okay, we're coming up on time here. And if there are any other questions, please squeeze them in here. Are there topics that we didn't touch on, guys, that you wanted to underscore or have any final thoughts on?
No additional topics. We're always really interested in hearing from other perspective, and we do build systems and provide services not just for music rights owners, but actually for the licensees. The groups licensing in the content. So like the suite of products that we build, it's a lot of, most times these platforms, they're not music companies at their core, and they don't want to build a rights management system to manage that. And so we have a solution for them, kind of an out of the box solution for them to actually manage the data exchange and the revenue and distribution component of that out of the box.
So you're working both sides of the street, as it were.
Exactly.
The supply side and the.
It benefits both sides if there's a solution that the license.
Yes, absolutely.
The licensee doesn't, they don't want to dedicate resources into building something that's kind of outside of their core business. And the music rights holders or AV rights holders want to make sure that the license agreement that they have in place is operationalized and being followed through. And both sides, I think, want that. We see this a lot. So I think it actually it's kind of a win for all, and kind of going back to the tagline of it's kind of helps liberate the value of content by providing that transparency and accurate flow of revenue.
Yeah, that sort of interoperability is going to get increasingly critical, as particularly with things like the copyright directive, putting more requirements on reporting and payments from platforms to rights owners, and there's potential for all kinds of mishigas in there unless the two sides can talk to each other effectively. So it would seem like you guys are pretty well positioned there. Oh, we did have a late question coming in from Herman or Herman Rodriguez Bajandas. How does your software deal recognition of foreign language content?
So anything we're doing on a audio or video kind of fingerprint basis, obviously language, is not a factor. If it's metadata based, the matching algorithms that we have are language agnostic. So we work with Latin rights owners, with Japanese rights owners. It's not an issue.
And our data team keeps improving this algorithm to transpose characters from certain alphabets and changes like this in order to support different language metadata and effectively match it together if that's needed.
Okay. I think we have to leave it there. Thanks very much, guys. Very informative presentation. Thanks everyone for your questions. We'll be back at the top of the hour with a panel I'm particularly excited about. Not that I haven't been excited with all of the panels, but wait, one last question. Are you open to collaborate on developing solutions? Well, that's something you should probably take offline with either of these guys, or Rob Fisher their colleague did put his LinkedIn profile in the chat. So you might want to look up Rob and make your best pitch, I guess, on a collaboration. Anyway, as I said, we'll be back at the top of the hour with a panel focused on turning copyrights into cash and new strategies for extracting value from particularly music copyrights without actually selling the rights and giving up all control over them. And so that'll be up in about 20 minutes, and hope to see you guys, see everybody back there then. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Bye for the power outage.
Thank you, Paul. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.